Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports for today's official preview, Springboks versus Lions. The last time I'm going to be talking about the game before we will be live for the game itself. It's a semi-final for the Springboks. It's a final for the Lions really, because a victory tomorrow would mean that they will take the series 2-0 and they cannot lose it, which would be a historic occasion for the British and Irish Lions. For the Springboks, they are fighting for everything they are worth. Off the ball issues the entire week, trying to deflect away from the performance. A lot of pressure on the referees. Quite a lot of gamesmanship we've seen this week. But at the end of the day, tomorrow, two teams will walk onto the field, and it's either going to be setting up a final next week, or it's going to be done and buried, and we can see rotated teams next week, and Springboks can only play for pride if they can't pitch up for tomorrow. So it really is absolutely everything to play for in little over a day's time. Before we actually look at the team and talk about what we need to look out for and stuff like that, please do smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. We're going to be live tomorrow. We're going to be doing player rating, stuff like that, so you don't want to miss out on any of that. The link for the live is currently up, so you can go to it. You can turn the notifications on there at the bottom left of the screen. On the actual video itself, and then you'll get a notification when we go live as well. Right, so in terms of the two teams, this is how South Africa will line up tomorrow, and there's a couple of changes to the side, mainly in the front row, with Steven Kitshoff and Frans Malherbe both being recalled into the front row, starting. Kitshoff and Malherbe probably expected to have started last week, and there's quite a lot of criticism when they didn't, but at the same time, when they did come off their bench, they didn't have a particularly good impact. So I think those are two players under quite a lot of pressure. They're going to really need to sort of pitch up tomorrow and sort of prove their worth. I do think that Frans Malherbe is somebody who's probably better starting. I don't think that he's got much sort of X factor apart from the scrums and the set piece work, coming off the bench, stuff like that. So, he probably is a better starter. Just be nice and solid. The scrums sort of grow into the game as well. And Mongi Manambi, I thought, was pretty solid last weekend, and he continues at number 2. The two locks, Evan Etzebeth and Franco Mostert, no complaints there. They were very, very good last weekend. Didn't have a lot to do at line-out time, but they made their tackles, and they carried the ball up when they needed to. And then a loose trio, which probably needs to try and pitch up a bit this week. Siya Kolisi was a little bit quiet last week, did the job that he had to do, but we kind of struggled to get some of our best players into the game, and we didn't see much of Kolisi. Peace Jeff the Toy also probably wasn't the best game we've ever seen from him. Tried quite hard, had a very good moment just before in the build-up of the sort of the try and stuff like that. But the big call, I suppose, is Jasper Wiese at 8th man, and no Kwagga Smith, who's been dropped to the bench, going with a much more abrasive, physical ball carrier in Jasper Wiese. So that's quite a big call, and I think it's quite an interesting sort of outlook in terms of how we're going to play the game. The fact that we want to maybe try and keep ball in hand. The fact that we maybe want to make sure that under the high ball we've got somebody quite big that can take the hits underneath it, because he'll be under a lot of pressure from Jerome van der Merwe. But the backline itself is unchanged. Faf de Klerk, Andre Pollard, Makazuma Pimpi, Damien De Lindy, Lokanyo, Chesson Colby, Vili Leroux as well. Vili Leroux coming through that injury issue. Pollard expected to play a full 80 given the 6-2 split. The centers were very good last weekend, but we do need to try and get our wings into the match a little bit more. And Faf de Klerk's box kicking probably also a bit under the spotlight, something he'll need to try and improve on. Off the bench, the props we're going to be looking at is Malcolm Marx, Vincent Koch, and Trevor Nyakane. Trevor Nyakane is set to cover loose head, with Vincent Koch to cover tight head. So quite a big game for Trevor. I thought was very good last weekend, was very good at the breakdown, won a penalty in the break one, maybe should have even won 2, was very solid in scrum time, was making his tackles. I thought he proved quite a lot of people wrong last week, and let's hope that he has a similar sort of impact off the bench. Vincent Koch also needs to have quite a big impact off the bench, and we know that Malcolm Marx, he came off last weekend, was already one of our top tacklers by the end of the game. Luat Diaga, Malcolm Verstappen, and Kwagga Smith. It is a bomb squad this weekend. Very, very good breakdown specialists in Malcolm Verstappen, Kwagga Smith, Malcolm Marx, even Trevor Nyakane. So expect those Boks to try and dominate those breakdowns towards sort of the last half an hour. Luat Diaga, when it comes to line-out time, if you can dominate the breakdown, kick to touch, you've got Luat Diaga operating in line-outs, it can all sort of work out quite nicely. But the two names are going to be quite under a lot of pressure if things start going in the wrong way for the Boks, is Herschel Yankees and Damian Willemse. So Damian Willemse, a massive call to back him as the utility back, where he has to cover 10, 12, wing, fullback, everywhere across the back line. Really, Herschel Yankees can cover wing if needs be, but not an ideal situation. So it's very, very interesting that they've backed Damian Willemse ahead of a France Steyn or a Mornay Steyn, which is a much safer option. But I think that he'll take a lot of confidence out of that, and hopefully we'll see him put in quite a big performance when he comes off the bench. For the Lions, they've also tweaked their lineup. In the front row, Mako Venipola starts, coming off the bench after a very impressive showing. Lukhan Ndiki and Tyke Furlong will continue in the front row. Mario Toja and Elman Jones were superb last weekend, and they continue. Obviously, Elman Jones will captain the side. And the same loose trio, Courtney Laws, who was fantastic. Tom Curry, who was pretty ill-disciplined in the beginning of the game, but sort of grew into it. And Jack Conan, who I just thought was very solid. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, does Jack Conan. He's reliable under the high ball. He's a very, very solid option. But there is another 8-man on the bench. And then Conor Murray comes into the starting lineup, which I think gives a bit of an indication of the type of game plan we will see the British and Irish Lions play. Quite a lot of box kicks, a very territorial game, I'm sure. And that's what Conor Murray does. He's sort of a specialist in the tactical kicking game. Dan Bigg at the moment is going through the final stages of his concussion protocols. And at this stage will start this weekend. But if he has any complications with those protocols, then Owen Farrell will come into the starting lineup and start at flower half. The two wings have remained Duhan van der Merwe and Anthony Watson. Still no sign of Josh Adams on the bench, nor Liam Williams, in fact, which is quite a big omission. And Robbie Henshaw has a new centre partner this weekend in Chris Harris, the Scottish centre coming in at outside centre, very physical player, very good defender, quite an intelligent player. So I think he's been brought in to try and help with the Damon Lindy and the Kanye Umthreat. Because I think that we can probably all agree that the Lions centres probably struggled a little bit last weekend. So Henshaw's got quite a lot to prove, and Elliot Day's been dropped down to the bench. In terms of the bench, Ken Owens, Rory Sutherland, and Kyle Sinclair, it's a very nice front row to be able to bring on. And then Tyke Byrne and Palatau are two very, very good impact players. Very good ball carriers, very physical, and they'll bring quite a big physical presence. Palatau's a very good ball carrier. Quite a different sort of player to Hamish Watson, who he replaces from last weekend. And then you've got Ali Price been dropped to the bench, who I think is a bit of a tough call. I thought he was very good last weekend. But going with Conor Murray for this weekend, which I think is more a tactical decision than anything else. And then Owen Farrell and Elliot Daly, between those two, they cover everywhere in the background. Owen Farrell covering 10 and centre, Elliot Daly covering wing, fullback, as well as outside centre. So plenty of versatility. And I think there's a bit of surprise that there's no Josh Adams, a bit of surprise there's no Liam Williams. Lots of people want to see, for example, somebody like Sam Simmons in the setup. But, I think Warren Gatton's quite wary of changing the team too much. I think he's made a couple of tweaks where he thinks that he can try and sort of take it a little bit further and stuff like that. But he's left the team relatively unchanged. Just the one change to the pack. He's left his loose trio, which did so well. He's left his lock combination, which did so well. He's backing his wings. So he's made, so even then are some big calls. The fact that Josh Adams still continues to be on the sidelines. What will be interesting is if Dan Biggar doesn't come through, whether Marcus Smith, which is apparently going to be the case, will come into the starting lineup. Not the starting lineup, onto the bench, and Owen Farrell will start, which would be quite a big moment for Marcus Smith if you're sort of putting on such a young and inexperienced fly half towards the last stage of the game. South Africa in a similar sort of position with Damian Willemse, but Damian Willemse has been an international player for 2 or 3 years now already, despite his young age. So that could potentially be an avenue that the Springboks could try and exploit if there is that change. But we'll have to wait and see. In terms of predictions, I'm going to go with the Springboks by 8 or 9 points. I think that we will bounce back, and I think we will try and set up a final next week. I think hopefully we'll be a little bit sharper this weekend. It wasn't a very, it was convincing, but it wasn't a big margin last week. It was 5 points, so it really could have gone either way. So I think people sort of forget how close the game actually was, and I think that the Springboks will only improve from last weekend and try and get over the line. I think especially with the pressure on the refereeing and stuff like that, I don't think there will be too many. I think a lot of 50-50 calls might go the way of the South Africans, whether that's right or wrong. You can debate that till the cows come home, but there certainly has been a little bit of talk, which I think will definitely influence the game, and at least put a spotlight on certain areas that the South Africans weren't happy with last weekend. Let me know what you think is going to happen in the game. Smash a like and subscribe to the channel as well. My name is Stephen. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll chat to you guys soon.